Good morning, North America. Welcome to Church Talk TV. Lively talk about life, church, and church life. I'm your co-host, Dr. Bill Tenney-Britton, and I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Dr. Kris Tenney-Britton, and we're broadcasting from our studio in Columbia, Missouri, the heartland of America. Say good morning, Kris.
Well, good morning, and welcome to Church Talk TV.
Kris and Bill Tenney-Britton here today, and today we are talking about how to develop a personal spiritual retreat.
Yep.
Of some description. And you're kind of the expert on this, not so much me. I mean, I don't sit still long enough to be able to do a retreat.
You've been on a couple.
Yes, I have been, and they've been
painful.
Terribly painful.
I know.
I can remember I went to Conyers, Georgia, a couple of times, which is the Monastery of the Holy Spirit.
There it is.
And I did a 3-day retreat. That was a silent retreat. I thought I was going to die.
Weren't you allowed to talk at dinner?
Yeah, we could talk during lunch in one of the rooms, and at least 1 or 2 monks would always sit in there for the guests to have conversations with. But by and large, yeah, the first day I was going stark raving mad. So let's talk about what does a spiritual retreat look like that is effective, and how do you put one together if you don't have a Monastery of the Holy Spirit local like we no longer have. We're in the middle of Missouri. And
we saw something the other day and said, wow, that would make a great retreat center.
Yeah, really, that's true.
So, hey, if you'd like to fund a retreat center
we have a place we can buy.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk.
Yeah, really.
Wait, I have to make a comment first before we go into that. This is the first time I've been taller than my husband.
Woohoo! That's because her chair is like this.
It is. You know? And I'm sitting, I could move the pillow. Yeah, he's 11 inches taller than I am, and I'm always so much shorter. Oh, well, okay, I just had to say that. Woohoo! Okay, so we're talking about creating a personal retreat. And, well, if you're new to retreats, let me say it's good to start with just half a day. A half a day, set aside a morning or an afternoon, go somewhere if you're able to go somewhere. But you don't really want to take anything with you. A lot of us, we go on retreat and we want to take our Bible and the book we're reading and I don't know what else.
Oh, and our cell phone and our iPad and our laptop.
Gosh, yeah.
And all our watches, etc., because we don't seem to be able to disconnect and unhook. And I know that I'm really hard. That's really hard for me. I live, breathe. I spend probably 6 to 8 hours a day in front of my computer screen.
True. At least.
And then when I get done, I take my phone and I'm doing this or whatever, So, yeah, well, no, this is it's too small. I've not figured out how to use the watch effectively except to wake me up. It does a great job of that.
It does.
But the reality is that if you want to go on a spiritual retreat, the key is to extricate yourself from society. Extricate yourself from the culture.
Right.
Go spend time with just you and God. In my book, if you're going to herd cats, you'll need a big mouse. I talk about pastors going to find the vision, going to hear from God, the vision of the church. And I tell them, leave everything except for a Bible and a yellow pad of paper so you can write. When God
or a
gives you
journal.
something,
some people journal.
Right. Whatever it takes. It's something you write, physically write, not type. And go and say, hey, God, I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I hear from you about what the vision is for the church. So that's a different kind of spiritual retreat, but about the only one I'm really familiar with, because every retreat I've ever been on has been guided by some spiritual guru who has walked me through and so on and so forth. So talk about what, besides not going with anything, especially not your electronics, what is it that you said nothing, and I do I guess disagree that I think you ought to take a Bible.
Yeah, you can take a Bible.
And I think you ought to have something to write on and write with.
Yeah, you do, right? A writing utensil.
Right, because you want to be able to. I hate flies.
We have one fly trapped in here in
our
his office.
Studio, and it's driving me nuts. And it's like.
So please forgive the fly. Yeah.
I'm not going to forgive the fly. Eventually, I'm going to find that fly swatter. I'm chasing them down.
No, but not while we're on it.
Not while we're not on air.
I can see it now.
Squirrel, fly, whatever.
Oh, we're so sorry.
All right, so
we need a retreat for sure.
All right, yeah, we're having way too much. You know, when we did this on Zoom, it wasn't nearly as fun as this.
No.
So anyway, so back in the studio, and here we are finally back in our studio. So I mean, we really are in the studios of Columbia, Missouri. Anyway, all right, spiritual retreat. We've digressed.
We have digressed.
Digressed, and have diluted this program. So let's move on.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of where we were. Let's see, where were we?
You go spiritual retreat.
Oh, yeah.
And what you take.
Yeah,
Bible,
what you take.
Writing utensil, and a pad of paper
Right.
or a journal or whatever you want to use.
And I wanted to add to that. Some of us are writers. You're a writer, so some people journal. Maybe you, but others are. They process better with their hands, and so I have a friend who works with markers. I have a client who actually tears paper and creates paper. Collage kind of thing. So he would bring paper and glue, a glue stick, something like that, paints, crayons, Play-Doh. I know when I used to facilitate retreats twice a year, I always made sure there was the basket of stuff that we took with us that had all of those different items, so we could set them out on a table. You probably want we still call them manipulatives. A fidget, that's the big name, the current word. Yeah, and I almost brought them down here. But in your hand, there are what they call palm crosses that are big old worry stones. Yeah, even a rock out of your yard could work, or a rock wherever it is if you're getting away. Which brings me to our next point, I think, and that is a retreat can be here, like in your home. It could be in your yard. It could be away somewhere, just outside. But you want to be someplace where you aren't going to be disturbed. So if you live with somebody else, you want to arrange with that person to not be around, or to plan when they aren't around, or if you have a quiet space. We really have a quiet room. We call it's mine. We call it the mystery room. I let them come in and eat breakfast and do prayers with me in the mornings when it's not too cold outside. Anyways, or when it's too cold outside. But it is that quiet place. And when the door is shut, pretty much, or there's a dog laying outside the door, he knows that I'm on retreat. Our children, when they come visit, our grandchildren know that I've retreated. And I do want to say that I think that's, in a way, has for some of us a positive connotation and a negative connotation.
What is
that?
Retreat? Okay.
Yeah, because we're like retreating out of the world. And some of us may like that concept. Others of us are, gosh, I just need to retreat. I need to get back. I need to step away.
Well, and retreat, I mean, it just as a general term does not have, we need to remove it from spirituality. Yeah. It has with, running away.
Retreat!
Right, retreat, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, for us guys who look at the military terms perhaps a little stronger than we ought to, or was enculturated into us. But in any event, that a retreat really is a coming away from. Jesus repeatedly, it says he went out in the morning to pray. He went to the mountain. They don't use the word retreat. On the other hand, a number of times it does say that he went there to get away from people.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's kind of what we need, and that's why we can't take our electronics with us, because they will follow us in. So if you need to leave your watch in the other room, or in your car if you've gone someplace. But the point that you make about the retreat or a retreat space, it just needs to be someplace where you can get yourself centered, and that the distractions of the world, because there's always going to be distractions.
Always.
I don't care. If you're in the mystery room,
right,
you can get distracted. Oh, look, there's dust on the paintings.
There's a fly.
Right, there's a fly.
Well, and in retreat as well, right? I mean, exactly. If you're outside, people may walk by, or
squirrel.
An animal. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So getting away doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get away from distractions. You're going to have to make some inner space to make that retreat happen. You're going to have to, it's not necessarily having to go somewhere or even retreat in your own house. You can do it in the living room. I'd probably TV is going to have to be off. I think that's too much of a distraction. I don't think you can get away from that. But if the rest of the family's there, if you live in a one-room house, a one-room cabin, and you have your family there, then getting that space may be difficult in November in Fairbanks, Alaska, in your one-room cabin. But you can still create an alone space by tuning out of the distractions. In my case, I would have to turn my chair towards the wall or whatever. But it is possible. I guess what I'm trying to say is, no matter what your circumstances, you can create space for your retreat. It's really lovely to have a whole room set aside and dedicated. I mean, that room's dedicated for prayer. That's what that room is for. And that's wonderful to have. And I like going outside. But if you don't have that opportunity, then you can make space somewhere that all you're trying to do is limit the distractions and be able to, you have to work to tune out the distractions. That may mean you have to do music or headphones or something.
Definitely.
I know there's purists out there who say you can't listen to music when you're on retreat. And I'm not one of those, because I kind of live with my music.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But different people have different, whatever proclivity you live in, music yay or music nay.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to be able to zone out, tune out, and limit your distractions.
Right. Well, and I would add to that you want to listen to music. You don't want to necessarily, but if you are going to listen to music, make sure it doesn't have words. Yeah. Right. So another part of retreating.
Or a tune that has words. If you're playing the old hymns in your head, you're going Amazing Grace. That doesn't work.
Oh, that's true. We play music at night when we're falling asleep, and we've had to take certain playlists off our playlist because it's got music, but we're singing the words. Not a pretty sight. So without words, definitely. I want to come back about creating space, because that is part of retreating.
It's a key part of retreating. If you don't have space, it's kind of hard to retreat, because you're retreating in your mind, retreating in your spirit.
Right. Well, and I want to go back one more minute or a couple minutes and to say about your electronics and your watch and whatnot. I did get to go on retreat for a long period of time. And it was a private retreat center. Excuse me. And so the chapel was only used by the nuns and the priests. A priest would come by. And so I was able to put my watch, which was not a smartwatch at that time. I was able to put my watch, my phone, my iPad, those were on the altar. And so they allowed me to lay them on the altar, because that was how I was, I was dedicating my time and wanted to give those up to God. I did have my computer, but I didn't have wireless access. And so part of what God does with me many times on retreat is just flows into my mind, if you will, and I write. It's one of those times that it's like amazing. Writing comes out because that's what God is speaking into me, and that's how I work, not so much to sometimes. Okay, anyways. So creating retreat space, if you will, or personal space. I mean, you've got it. And you want a wall or a corner. In the mystery room, we actually have a bookshelf. We have bookshelves, but on one of those shelves is our statues and different holy. Jesus, I think, is on there. Mantles, there have been times that we've used a mantle for our quiet space. Drawers, dresser drawers can work as well. So you want to create that space.
Dresser drawer is
a dresser drawer. No, but on top of it, you might put
drawers.
What did I call it?
And you said a dresser drawer, and I'm just pulling out the dresser drawer. It's like, what do you do with that now?
They're dresser drawers.
They're chests of drawers. Dressers. Whatever.
Dressers, exactly. Dressers, drawers. Okay.
I was crawling right in there.
We're going to have to go back to our Zoom rooms. I swear. Well, anyways, and I'm sitting here looking in this area, and while there's a corner over there, and so what do you put on that? You might bring a cross. You may have a statue, a crucifix statue of Jesus.
I have a Jesus statue on a horse.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you can put different items. When I go on retreat, I have these little woven people, if you will. They're very, very small. And I have enough, I've gotten enough that they represent the members of our immediate family. So you, me, our children and our grandchildren. And then I put that there, and it's my way. Again, you're dedicating. It's an altar. You're placing it there and before God. So you take that, and you create your space where, again, it can be in your home, it can be outside. I advocate for going somewhere where you won't know anybody. You can decide.
Starbucks is probably not the place to go.
Not the place. No, that is not retreat.
Right.
Right? I mean, there are so many places we think are retreat because we try to make excuses for why we need to be with other people. We can't imagine setting ourselves apart.
So a city park. In our immediate area, we have some walking trails. That there's some places to sit and whatever. So there's places. We got to move past the place and start talking about the retreat itself.
Right. So the retreat itself, start with prayer. That you're telling God that you're giving God that time, and then with our Prayer Power Network, and I have to put the shout out to the Prayer Power Network. I teach all kinds of different spiritual practices, and your book, High Voltage Spirituality, is another great tool because it has all kinds of different practices. So something you can use, something that brings you closer to God or can put you in that. So you're not going just sitting. I think that's a problem. When I I love going to Catholic retreat centers. We're not Catholic, but just there's with a nun, a monk there, whoever owns and operates it, or has it.
The monastics.
They pray into that space. And some people I know, maybe you go to campgrounds, your church campgrounds. I don't recommend that. There is a different sense where you have these holy people that are praying into that space every single day. So if you're in a place like that, go to worship or go to the prayers with the people who may be there. Did you want to say something?
No, only that when she said she likes don't go to the campground. Let me just clarify what she really means. She's talking about hierarchy of. You go to a place where there's, a real retreat center where there's people who are there praying for it and living there, etc. A campsite is or a Christian campground, whatever, is a great place to go. It's just not as good as this because it hasn't been prayed into in the same way. And eventually you get down to the bottom where you're sitting in the corner facing a wall.
I'm facing you, making faces. I'm like,
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. Well, let me tell you why. Okay. There is something called sacred space. And it's, when people come into our house and they come into the mystery room, I see clients in the mystery room. And when people come in there, they talk about the sense, the feel. There's a feel to it. And that's because it's been prayed into and is prayed into so much. Same with retreat centers. What happens at church campgrounds? There's praying there. But it's playing, it's recreation, it's all of that. It's got a different spiritual sense to it.
We're going to move past talking about place
now.
Okay,
that's right. Okay, so yeah, all right. So I really do want to say about spiritual exercises, and that's how I got off on that little diversion, because it is about going to worship, feeling free to go and worship.
And that's great if you're someplace that has that. This is about personal.
Right.
So let's pull it back into making a plan.
So we could be, making a plan. You want to chart out how long you want your retreat to be. My recommendation is you take half an hour a week, or half a day. You set aside half a day to retreat. Every month you plan on half a day. And then every quarter you plan for a whole day of getting away. That's the easiest way to live into this. And a lot of people, I've known, a lot of clients, when they start to take that 1 hour time, they actually do it with an altar that they have made in their home, a holy space, if you will. So you know how long you're going to spend, and commit that, put it on your calendar, and then decide, here we go, where you're going to have do that retreat. Where can you go feasibly?
Jot it down, moving on.
Put it on your calendar, right? Make a date. If it's someplace you need to make reservations, make the reservations for that. And then you're going to look at your spiritual practices. What might I do in that time? Some spiritual practices are more conducive to like people may be seeking an answer, and so there are some practices that open that to them. Some people want to spend more time in the Bible, or there's been something they've read that they want to, you may want to spend in Lectio Divina or in imaging prayer. So those will help to dictate that. You may want to talk to a spiritual director and somebody who's there on site, or somebody like me that takes appointments and work with a spiritual director as you're planning this, so that together you can have a sense. Because so many people go on retreat and are saying, well, God's going to speak to me in this moment. I'm going to have a mountaintop experience. And it's not like you can go never talking to God or rarely talking to God and that necessarily God's going to show. Well, God's going to be there. God's showing up. But you haven't been working with the tools so that you can hear God and what God is trying to say to you.
So it may take some time. So let me
Go ahead.
do some synthesis here, okay? So whether you have 4 hours, 8 hours, 3 days, whatever it is, that there's some basics that you're going to want to incorporate into this retreat. Okay, prayer. All right. Now, when we talk about prayer, there's lots of, as she already pointed out, there's
prayer
lots
practices.
of different ways,
That's right.
little different prayer practices. But you could, one of the ways to, of course, start off with is, you're going to have an opening prayer. You're going to spend some time in quiet and centering. There's a key to trying to drop the stuff off, all the cares that you brought with you. So, begin your time with some centering and letting go and some prayer. Hey, God, I'm here with you. Great. Start with the Lord's Prayer if that's part of your tradition, and then live into some time of silence. During your prayer retreat, you're going to want to have some writing time. You're going to want to, of course, have some scripture reading time, and you're going to want to have some time where you're just not sitting. You're going to probably going to do some walking,
or if you're in a wheelchair, wheeling, right?
Right.
Really, we've got to talk about that.
Whatever it is, being ambulatory, getting out of your space so that you can experience the moving presence, the movement, if you will, of the Holy Spirit. I find when I don't sit still. For me, my retreats are primarily doing reading, writing, and then I don't sit still and pray very well. So I get up and I walk. And my favorite prayer retreat that I've ever been on was one that my wife arranged for me. It was a writing prayer retreat, and it was in Westport, Washington, which is a beach town
Our favorite ocean town.
Our favorite oceanside town is a harbor and whatever. But I would go out and I would walk along the beach or walk on the streets early in the morning where there was no one there, and I pray really well out loud. And so, and now you can stick an earbud in your ear, and it doesn't look like you're a crazy person talking to yourself.
I love it.
So you go out and you just have this conversation with God, and I found that I moved from prayer, reading, writing, walking, writing. Take a break. Normally, by that point, it was a meal time or a snack time, and then I just repeated it: prayer, reading, writing, walking, and then writing, because my writing was important for reflecting.
Yeah, well, and we've gone to places to do we've said we're going to do a prayer, a retreat, a retreat. So we would get up, not have breakfast. Breakfast and lunch were on our own. We wouldn't talk. We would do our respective work, even though we would most of the time be in the same room. But you would go out walking and do your thing, and I would pray, not moving, but we would come back together and have dinner together, and then we would share in the evening. Now, I will tell you, as he says, he doesn't sit still very well. He processes out loud. I'm a contemplative. Mine is very interior. I also learned that I love solitude. So I went on retreat with a friend, and it was a silent retreat, but we did follow that kind of pattern because she'd never been on a silent retreat and she needed to talk and process at the end of each day. But it was very difficult for me because while we went there for 3 days of silence, I wanted 3 days of solitude. That's really, so anyways, just recognizing that if you're going to partner with somebody else, recognizing what that looks like, and give it a shot. Don't be afraid of it, right? You are retreating, but you're retreating from the world, if you will, just for that little bit of time.
So some quick advice, and because we're about out of time.
Yeah, we are.
Some quick advice on getting started. If you've not done a spiritual retreat before, start by setting an hour, just an hour, and go through your ritual. Whether again, whether the planning is yours, which is reading in solitude, go and find it someplace and just me, God, and my Bible and my journal, or if it's like me, where you got to do the walking, whatever. Set up an hour's worth of alone time or retreat time where you're pulling yourself out of the world and focusing on God and God alone, and listen to what God has to say to you, because that's kind of the point of the retreat, is hearing what God is speaking to you in your life.
Yeah, I want to say I take my Bible, but I don't tend to rely on my Bible. I use the Book of Common Prayer for prayer offices, so that I have a guide. You can find devotional guides. Advent is that countdown to Christmas starts at the end of November. And be thinking about that. That's always a good time to try and get away. If you're a church leader type, then you probably want to take some time towards the end of August just to get away and get prepared for what's coming. Can we do a shout out for our Prayer Power Network retreat?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. So this Saturday, which is July 15th, we're having a mini retreat. It's a mini retreat, 12:30 to 4:30. It's via Zoom, so that you can participate. We will start with prayer. We'll close with prayer. There will be times for icon gazing, for Lectio Divina, for imaging prayer. If you don't know what that is, you need to come to the Hope to Habits experience. And will we have more information below where they can sign up for it? Sure, we will. For the retreat,
absolutely.
yeah. So, and be thinking about this other, so you can learn these practices. The retreat is free. For the first time, I'm offering the mini retreat for free because I want you to experience that retreat. All you have to do is set aside 12:30 to 4:30 Central Time. If you're able to kind of do that in a quiet space of your own, invite somebody to come with you, and you don't have to sit in front of the Zoom for all of that time. What you're going, you can get up, you can take a walk, you can do whatever you want. If you sign up, it's free. You'll get the prayer guide free too.
All right. Hey, we are out of time.
We are out of time. Hey, have a great week. Thanks for being with us.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.